If I had to choose 3 words to describe Untitled Goose Game, it would be charming, fun, and enjoyable. So taking a look at this game, the first thing you're going to notice is its unique art style. The bright colors and low polygon textures, it's an absolute treat for the eyes. With a lot of these smaller studios releasing games on smaller budgets, a lot of the charm of the game is definitely in the atmosphere and the art direction that they choose, and I think Untitled Goose Game nails its own. The basic premise of the game is you're an asshole goose, and you're given a to-do list of objectives to complete, going through this small village by pestering people, stealing their objects, and just completing different trigger challenges and doing separate things in order to check things off and move on to the next area. It's not a new idea, and it's not a new take on anything, but just playing as a goose just makes it so much more enjoyable. What I also like about these specific objectives is that they don't really hold your hand. A lot of the writing is just basically accomplish this thing, and it's really up to you to read your environment and the mannerisms of the people in it in order to achieve them. Some puzzles were pretty simple. Drag a rake into the lake, steal some carrots, steal these items to have a picnic, put these items into a shopping basket. But other things like making the gardener wear his sun hat makes you really have to think outside the box. How am I going to do that? I can't reach the hat. Oh, he's taking his hat off. If I steal his hat, chuck it in the lake, he'll have to put on a different one. So it's thinking outside the box and really reading your environment. The game's not going to tell you what to do and how to do it, it's really up to you to take a look around you and figure it out. And to accomplish these goals and check things off the list, you're going to be using the gameplay mechanics, which are just about as simple as the atmosphere, and that's not a bad thing. You are playing as a goose after all. You're not playing as third echelon Sam Fisher here. You're a fucking goose. So essentially you're restricted to flapping your wings, moving around, ducking your head, and of course the honking, which is absolutely integral to your success. Not only do you use it to activate certain triggers, to intimidate people, but it's also a lot of fun to put things on the end of your beak and blow through it with your honk, like the end of a jar to have it muffled, or to just have a harmonica in there and toot away. Even the little sound touches, like having the honk be a little muted just because you have something in your mouth, is a wonderful little touch. And speaking of the sound design, it's not anything amazing, but Claude Debussy's score, mixed in with all the hijinks happening, just fits absolutely perfectly. Aside from general honking, stock sound effects, and some modifications on those depending on the environment, it's not anything that's gonna win some kind of award as far as sound design goes, but everything blends in and creates this unique atmosphere for Untitled Goose Game that I think is impossible to ignore. And as long as we're talking about what you can do in the game, let's talk about how you can accomplish these things using those mechanics. So taking a look at all these ways you can do things, ducking your head can get you under low spaces, honking can intimidate people, flapping your wings can make yourself appear larger and you can use that to chase people down. And you can use these in combination to solve puzzles, but also just to basically dive you into the mindset of being an asshole goose. So accomplishing things in this game essentially comes down to environmental solutions, trigger solutions, manipulating objects and moving them around, and of course one of my favorite gameplay aspects, stealth. I haven't had so much fun with stealth in a video game in a long time, and that's because a lot of the stealth games I play, the reward is in the payoff. By executing timing and doing everything right to accomplish the goal, that's your reward. I haven't played a game like this in a while where the reward is doing the stealth. You know, when you play a game like Splinter Cell or Metal Gear, you have to remind yourself you're a Special Forces operative. This is just part of what you need to do to achieve your goal. Whereas when you're playing Untitled Goose Game, you can just relish in the fact that you're being a goose, and the reward is just being a sneaky little goose. Of course, the payoff comes from accomplishing your goal as well, but of course there is just that mindset of sneaking around going, haha, I'm an asshole goose, come and get me, sucker. What's nice in combination with these mechanics is also just the game itself. Different areas of the map will utilize different skills. For example, the intro, the garden scene, you're going to use a nice combination of stealth and just kind of hit and run tactics where you run through, use distraction techniques to make the gardener go somewhere else, and then grab different objects to bring them back to have a picnic. The second section, where you're dealing with a television store, you can use multiple techniques in order to get in and get yourself on TV, and that's another wonderful thing about solving puzzles in this game. For the most part, a lot of the puzzles can be solved usually one way, but there are a lot of opportunities to think outside the box. How do I want to get in there? Do I chase the kid inside the telephone booth and he calls the store owner and he has to come out and save the kid? Do I just honk repeatedly to try to draw the guy out and slip by him? Do I put a walkie-talkie next to his door and then grab the other walkie-talkie and honk into it in order to use it to distract him and then sneak in? That's the wonderful thing about this game. There aren't a ton of ways that you can solve certain puzzles, but the ones that do give you free reign do add to the illusion of more depth than what's really there. And that brings me to one of my biggest gripes about this game is simply how much there is to do and the lack of what there is to do. This game is short. And I mean short. You can complete everything in about 3 hours if you really play casually. If you're rushing through, you could probably get through it in your first playthrough in maybe 2 to 2.5 hours. And to complete everything, to really check everything off all the lists, I got done in about 5-ish hours. I wasn't really counting, but just kind of looking at the clock. And then once you get that done, there's not really a lot more you can do. You can replay the game to check everything off again, but once you know where everything is, there's not a lot of replayability here. And I think that's both a good thing and a bad thing, because it makes every part of Untitled Goose Game's experience memorable and fun, but it also leaves me wanting more, which is a good and bad thing. It leaves me wanting more because what I had was absolutely wonderful, but it stopped so short that I felt like I could have had more and kind of wondered why I didn't. Again, this game was developed over 2 years. It was announced in October of 2017, and it's a small company, so I can't really expect too much. And I don't really know what I was expecting, but I was kind of hoping for a little bit more than what I got. But the key takeaway here is what I got was an extremely enjoyable experience. I got a nice condensed experience from start to finish that was completely enjoyable. I had some puzzles that had me scratching my head but not too hard. I had stealth gameplay that was enjoyable and not tense. This is a wonderful example of a game that realizes that you don't need to have edge of your seat stealth gameplay all the time to enjoy stealth. This is a game that shows that you don't have to have the most complex puzzles in order to challenge someone, to have them enjoy being challenged and to have them excited for more challenges going forward. It's not a game that starts off way too easy and then just gets moderately difficult towards the end. It's a game that has a constant pacing about it and really makes you think a little bit outside the box and really has you read your environment. It doesn't hold your hand to have you solve puzzles, and it doesn't necessarily throw everything at you at once. And while I think Untitled Goose Game is a game that you should definitely give it a go, it's also one that I really have to warn people and say it isn't going to have a lot in the replayability department beyond once you complete everything, and because it is so short, it is pretty easy to kind of max out everything this game has to offer. So I would say kind of temper your expectations. You're not going to get the next Skyrim, you're not going to get the next Witcher Wild Hunt. You're not going to get a game that's going to last you for weeks to come. It is going to be played through a few times, it'll sit in your library, and then you'll probably pick it up again whenever you feel like playing it once more. Hopefully they have DLC. I was kind of hoping for maybe a couple more village sections in order to stretch the game out just a little bit longer. But I will say this, Untitled Goose Game is a fantastic time. I do recommend checking it out, and you will not be disappointed. But don't expect something that's going to be so horrifically long, and don't expect something that is going to last you and have you talk about it for years to come.